How do you see 2021? What would you change or continue to make the most of it?
I think 2021 is going to be whatever we are prepared to let it be for us. So firstly as individuals and thereafter as professionals. Ultimately, the pandemic should not define us. Of course, we need to learn from it. And it's an upward battle still. But our collective approach to it needs to, and the collective and individual approach needs to be, is recognizing that it's happening, and it's going to continue, and we have to coexist with it. Now, that will shape how we move forward. But what we mustn't let 2021 do for us is define it as the year of the pandemic. If anything, it should be the year of returning back our lives to the way it was. It may be, may take a few more months for that, but we will get there. We will get there. And as human beings, nothing can beat us. This pandemic has not beaten us. It's unfortunately made people sick. It's unfortunately taken lives of people that maybe they're close to us. But we need to draw on those experiences, as other pandemics have taken place in the past. We need to talk about other things. We need to talk about what makes us happy, what makes us proud. So my message to myself every day is that, yes, there's a pandemic. And yes, I'm responsible for myself. And yes, or no, I'm not trying to impose myself on other people or infect anyone, nor would I ever do that. And it's incumbent on every one of us to be responsible. I guess the message I'm trying to convey is not to be scared, because if we live this year with fear, then we're letting the pandemic define us, and it shouldn't. So that's what I will continue as my approach, is live my life, my fullest life, as responsibly as I can. That's important, without compromising on any rules or laws or breaches, and just doing what I wanted to do this year, which was to take my sabbatical. And midway through that, I will take another trip soon, which I'll talk about. And then maybe later part of 2021, I'll find another job somewhere. So,
what advice would you give to people who are no longer working due to the pandemic?
Yeah, that's an important one, because as I mentioned before, some 35-40% of people in the aviation industry and the supply chain have lost their jobs because businesses can't survive. So it's probably the worst time to be in this situation. And whilst I know that not everyone can stop and reshape their direction and make the choice for themselves, as I did, my advice would always be to try and remain positive. Give yourself timelines and increments in terms of how you see the situation developing, whether that's monthly or bi-monthly, because I'm fairly certain the automatic fear that we have as people, particularly if we have responsibilities, and let's face it, the vast majority of us have responsibilities, financial commitments, we get into a panic. Give yourself time and saying, okay, I work in this field. Let's take an example. I work as cabin crew. I don't know what else to do. And you say, okay, 2 months time, I'll apply for every cabin crew job that there is. And we know not many airlines are recruiting. Some are, which is good, and I applaud them. But you may need to, in the second month of your decision making that you've given yourself, when you don't get a job, you need to think about a different direction. And the most important thing is, don't lose faith and don't lose heart, because sometimes when you're in a situation, whether it's a pandemic or whether it's an economic crisis, you need to move back or sideways before you get going again. So don't lose heart, and try to give yourself the encouragement by doing some of the things that I found which are beneficial for me, and which are meditation, as I talked about, or running, is to try and always consider that there are alternatives to what you've always become accustomed to. And that's the only way you're going to be able to get out of the downward spiral and give yourself the optimism of moving forward.
You mentioned that you are on a sabbatical break, or a break, and you just returned one of your trip. How was traveling for you during the pandemic?
It's almost a perfect time to travel, and I say that because when I travel to Costa Rica, first and foremost, you should only travel to places that are open and will accept you. And if your country allows you to travel, then by all means travel. But for me, it's a perfect time to travel. I'll explain why. It's safer, cleaner air in the aircraft. than many people give credit for, given the circulation speed of the air. Moreover, most aircraft, and I flew via Madrid to Costa Rica, they're operating with 20-30% load factors, 40-50 on some days, but the planes are not full at all. So if you have any anxiety about social distancing, you don't need to worry about it. Certainly not at the airport. So the airport and the travel experience was perfect. As I spent so much time in Costa Rica, everywhere I went, everyone's being responsible, because whilst they are open, they are a country which has over 30%, or just over 30% of their country, which is nature reserves, which they want to protect. So they sell a limited number of visits to certain preservation sites. They do that anyway, I think, but once they sell 200 or 300, then that's enough. They're not going to let people buy any more tickets, and it's ticket only. So they control the demand that way, which means that you're already distanced in places like that. And every outdoor venue, whether it's a nature reserve or volcanoes or the waterfalls, there's always an entry point. And there, before you can go in, they want to see you masked. They have literally plumbed in somehow a basin with water and soap and a dryer and a security guy, more often than not it's a man as opposed to a woman, checking your temperature to make sure that you're healthy enough to go in there. And they're doing these things to not only give themselves comfort and their staff comfort, but to give you comfort that we are looking after you. But what I experienced on my travels is that there's simply less people around, and it was very comfortable. My next trip, hopefully, will be to India later on this month, where I'm avoiding the big metropolises. Everywhere in India is a big metropolis, I know, but there's certain rural areas in the south which are on my horizon where I want to really take time to switch off and get in touch with nature. And what this pandemic will show the world is that it's important to appreciate what you have, of course, in your own country, but there are so many things that are still to be seen worldwide. And life is short, and we should embrace it in a safe and responsible way. So that's what I'm trying to do right now.
Thank you for this inspirational talk today, and I hope that you will enjoy the rest of your sabbatical and live in the moment, as you said. So I wish you all the best, and I hope that we will talk very, very soon.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And as we say in India, namaste.
Namaste. Namaste.
Namaste.